Okay, before, how do I go back? There we go. We're using the same packet we did.
Well, I have four. Like 1, 2, and 3. I just don't remember where I put it.
We're still in 3.
Yeah, no, but I have unit 1 and number 2 and 10 and then homework one. So that's
Gotcha. So in unit 4, I made sure that the homework and the notes looked different. At your table. At your table, first thing I want you guys to do. If you need to look these things up, go for it. Find the inverse of that. Find the inverse of that equation. If you don't remember parts of it, look it up. This is kind of how you have to do learning as you get older, as you look things up. I will pretend you guys don't have phones and look things up as you find the inverse.
I think it's negative 1 over 3.
We actually, you know,
Oh, you did? Oh, you remember how to do it up there. Oh, back away. That was good. Okay, we got it yet? You don't even have your notes out, right? We haven't changed
we should just, like, use Brenna, she's like, she just texted me.
We're still in unit 3. We haven't changed back.
See, but I just don't think I
Why would I do that? Do I have more? Oh, good. Why would you care? I wouldn't change your grade in any way. Don't change Remember how to get it? Okay? So you guys learned it a bunch of different ways, most likely. And my guess is the way that you probably remember after looking it up is you swap the x's and y's. Is that the way you learned it probably? So you switch the x's and y's and then resolve for y. That's pretty much the guaranteed way that you were taught it, I think. I don't know where the Emily's sitting anymore. Why are you doing that right now?
I did the math. It's like in between.
Okay. Did anybody learn how to find the inverse a different way? Oh, really? Okay. There's nothing wrong with this. So on the x, two things are being done. the first thing being done is you are multiplying by 3. Second thing being done is adding 2. So if you find the inverse, another way you can do the method is you do opposite operations, opposite order. So the inverse would have subtract 2, divide by 3. So that's what's being done to that. Say what? This is usually how they first teach it. Like forever ago when I taught at Woodbridge Junior High, this is how we would teach inverse. This is more common because once you get to equations, x's and y's are kind of more useful. Okay. But the big idea is that inverse means what? What's the opposite? True, but there's a certain specific thing that's the opposite. The x's and y's are switched. So whether you want to call that opposite, there's different wording you can use. But the x's and y's are reversed. So we get to this section, and we are going to be trying to find the derivative of inverse functions, which feels like a rather large jump from us just finding the inverse of a linear function. Okay, well, before we start this, I feel like I want to give you the, show you what derivatives of inverse look like, because that will usually help you figure it out. I don't like this whole screen. There we go. Let's pretend that we have an entire function, but we are only going to focus on one specific spot. Okay, so f of x has the point, what is that, 4, -2? That's what I tried to draw it at, but I don't know if it looks like it. Give me a slope.
2.
Okay, so at the point 4, -2, this function has the slope 2. Oh, you look like you had a question on it. So we're just making that up, right? Doesn't matter what info we assign to it. Oh heck, you need something to do. Let's roll. Which table's gonna go?
0.
Well, that's teacher's choice, but we can't have a teacher's choice if we don't even have one roll.
4.
4. Usually what I do is I just pick a table that doesn't roll. Okay, table 4, back there. What's gonna be the inverse point? So the red, oh, nice job. The red is gonna represent f of x. The blue will represent the inverse, which is usually notated with a -1. What's going to be the point on the inverse?
-2, 4.
Perfect. You switch the two numbers. So -2, 4 would be on the inverse of red. Do you guys remember anything about inverse from a picture? Do you remember drawing that at all in pre-calc? You probably did it in Algebra 2. I just didn't know if you did it last year. Okay. So functions and inverses are mirror images around y equals x. Because you swap the x's and y's. So if I have the point over here, its mirror image is perpendicular straight over there at negative 2, 4. If I have a slope of 2 here, what is going to be the slope on negative 2, 4? Any thoughts? Negative 2? Okay. I'm going to try, oh god, that's bad, negative 2. I'm going to try to draw a negative 2 slope. Well, we didn't finish doing that one yet. Okay, so if this would be correct, if this slope would be correct, it would have to be a mirror image to that red one right there. Is the black one mirror image to the red one? It's not. The easiest way to tell is to rotate your head sideways. And, I mean, normally you turn your paper but we can't. So, looking at those two, the black and the red are not mirror images. Then you said negative 1/2. Okay, negative 1/2 would look like that. I don't know, thoughts? Still think no? Okay, what should it be then? One half? That's not really good, 1/2. Yeah? That one is definitely correct. I mean, it's not like this picture's very great, but these two are definitely mirror images around the dotted line. So, where I'm getting at with this, if you have a function that has a slope, you automatically can figure out the inverse location and the inverse slope by switching the x's and y's. You guys use the delta notation in chemistry, I think, right? Like you guys are okay with that? Change in y, change in x. Well, if you do the inverse and you switch the x's and y's, all it does is flip it upside down. So you are flipping the slope upside down. Sophia, let's roll it. Table 2. How about the inverse info? If I know this point, if I know this slope, what would be the inverse info?
The point would be negative 7, 6, and then the slope would be 3 over negative 2, which is negative 3 over 2.
You gave me two different answers there.
That's the same thing.
No, you said 3 over 2 and then negative 3 over 2.
I meant to say, I said negative for both of them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. So that's what we're thinking? That's what you were thinking. How about the rest of your table?
Yeah.
I worry about your original thoughts over there. Just yeah. And we over here disagree. Okay? I need you guys to keep this in mind, that this is all we're doing. This section is gonna feel super complicated. And it's not. This is all we're doing the entire section. Shoot. Is the formula on page 1? Yep. Where is it? It's 1 over was written on page 1. That's not it. No. Yeah, what page is that? Well, 184, I don't know if that is on mine, yeah. Oh, yeah, right here. There's gonna be two ways to find this answer. One is the formula. I don't even know if I have a recommendation for which method is better. You're gonna find that this topic is super easy when we do it today, and then maybe tomorrow. 3 months from now, when we're getting ready for the AP test, guaranteed you'll forget this. So, sometimes a formula works great, because if you can memorize a formula, go with that. Other times, if you can remember how to find something without a formula, that works better, because that is sometimes can be longer lasting in your brain. So, I'm okay with either method. So let's do a problem together. Four. Oh, one of the feedbacks I got, which I figured I would mention something about, was a handful of people said they would like to do more examples in the notes. And I get why you possibly want to say that. I purposely don't do all the problems in the notes because I don't always necessarily agree that that was the way that it should be taught. I didn't make up the notes, so I go with what I think is best to teach you something, better order, better whatever. And or time. Person that made these notes has a block schedule, hour-and-a-half long class. Okay, so we are going to try to find the inverse derivative at -9. Because this says g is going to be the inverse. The little prime means derivative. The number in there is at the x value. So we are trying to find inverse derivative at -9. So here's how I would like us to start it. So g is the inverse, and if we think of the picture I was drawing, this would be the one color, this would be the other color. We are asked to find the inverse derivative at -9, so I wrote that in there. So this is essentially what we want to find at the end. Sophia, can you find a table for me?
9.
Table 9, which sort of, not really a table. When we were drawing the pictures, how did we figure out the slope of the inverse? You're not wrong, but that tells us nothing. Yes, we looked at the graph. Should I back up and go to the graph? Would that be easier to visualize? You two are answering. I don't know what we were looking at.
You just like flip the slope, right?
Correct. So you did what?
Flip the slope.
Flip to the slope of the original function upside down. So for us to find this answer, we need to know this answer, and we will flip it upside down. Okay? Well, we have to take the info we're given to get to here. F of x is 4x cubed plus 5x. Okay, fine. If I want to find the slope at -9, what number would be here on the inverse function? -9. These are both describing the same location. This is gonna be the point, this is the slope. How do I find the inverse at -9? On the original function, where would the -9 go? Since we swapped the x's and y's, it would be equal to -9. We're just using logic to fill in things. We use what we know about inverse to find this answer. That's math. That's what we do. Doesn't matter if it's weird. Just go with it. How do I find that number? Because this is actually the only information we were given. You know, we were given that, right? We want to know when this is equal to -9. These problems can be horrible. They will always give you an equation and an answer that is going to be +1, 2, or 3, or -1, -2, or -3. I have never seen a question have a different answer than those. I guess 0 could be possible too. But on the AP test, they will not make this something that's difficult to solve. So, is it gonna be 1, 2, 3, or -1, -2, -3? I'm assuming somebody already figured it out. Or not. You guys are supposed to be quick at that. 3? So 3 cubed would be 20, no, definitely not 3. 1? -1. I was assuming it had to be negative to get a negative answer. Okay, so -1 cubed would be -1, times 4 would be -4, -5, -9, perfect. The x value is -1. I mean, that's gonna be the most difficult part about this problem. I wanna figure out the slope at -1. Now, this part's annoying because you gotta do the derivative, but it's not hard. Okay, what's our slope at -1 gonna be? I feel like this should be a table. This is gonna be a table roll. Table 2. Wait, didn't they already go?
It's fine.
Oh, all right. A different person should answer this time.
I vote none.
I don't care who votes, you guys figure it out. You could do nose goes, you could do rock, paper, scissors, I don't care what you do.
We got 17.
17?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 12 times -1 squared would be 12 plus 5, 17. Good? And then somebody's gonna get the glory of giving me the final answer.
Because the derivative
What?
Table 1,
of x.
what's the final answer?
The derivative and then x.
Perfect. So, this is going to be one method for doing these problems, is you figure out this information throughout the problem. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. Some people just automatically, one way makes more sense to them. Let's do the same problem, but with the formula. Next, yes,
Can we find G of -9?
you don't need to, but yes. Because once we figured out it was -1 over here,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you can figure it out, but it's not needed. Okay, so let's pretend we didn't do this at all. Rather than scrolling, f inverse prime of x, so in this case, g is instead of f inverse, 1 over, I can't read that, f prime, inverse. Thank you. That's too small for my eyes. right? Yeah, so instead of F inverse, this problem called it G. You're going to find that in some textbooks, they don't like writing F inverse. I'm assuming because they don't want you to confuse the -1 with a power or, something, I don't know. And that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna fill this out. We wanna find G prime -9. Okay, well, 1 is quite easy to do, we just did it. F prime of G of -9. Okay, F prime, G of -9. So we always work our way from the inside out. How do we figure out G of -9? So if you're a formula person, you're gonna need to know how to work this and run this formula.
So since G is the inverse, you would just have -9 be y value instead of x value.
Yeah. G is the inverse, which means this answer is when the original function is equal to -9. So whether you think that in your head, however you write it, I don't care. But that's what we have to do to find that answer. So then you would take the original function, make it equal to -9, and conveniently, we already figured out it was -1. Okay, well, then I'm going to continue the formula on, and it is now 1 over f prime of -1. F prime of -1 would mean we have to find f prime. Go ahead.
John wants to ask you.
Wait, how is?
Why are you
G
scared to
of-
ask a
She
question?
told me to ask it.
I asked it.
You shouldn't be scared by now, you should know
I
I.
asked it to you, but you didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
G of how would you give -9, -1?
So G of -9 is backwards from f because it's the inverse. So rather than the -9 being what's plugged in, it's going to be when f is equal to that. So instead of plugging -9 in place of x, we have to figure out what x would give us -9 as an answer. Like it stands for reverse. Well, it's, for some people, one way ends up working better than that. So plug in -1, what was it again, 17? So the formula, the worst part about the formula is memorizing it. Second worst part of the formula is this step right here, figuring out that answer. So I will gladly do both methods, either method. But just, I wanna make sure you guys know that there's 2 ways to solve these. One of them most likely clicks better with you. Okay, I think there's probably another one on the next page, I hope so. Otherwise, I'll look one up. A calculator one, okay. Well, that's fine, we can do that. You'll need your calculator. You guys look tired. Was there a big lunch today? No?
How about charger again?
Sure.
Calculators are low on battery.
Yeah, didn't you charge that right before?
Yeah, I don't think I charged it for long enough though. I might need to charge it overnight someday.
That would be a good plan. I think that was it. No. Yep.
There it is. Can I just bring it back tomorrow? Can I take it home and charge it overnight? Thank you. Yeah.
I actually have like 4.
Oh, okay. I'll bring it back.
If I remember right, I think I have a box of them somewhere. Yes, you can just keep that cord.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
These used to be the cords for my bathroom passes, because I've got a lot of them. When Eastridge first opened, we actually had a set of graphic calculators for every classroom.
What happened to them? They installed it?
No, they broke and died. And then they don't pay to replace it. But I have a charging cord for every single one of them. Okay. Oh yeah, let's roll. I was trying to figure out who to call on.
0.
0. Oh, now it's teacher's choice. What table has not gone? Table 7 has not gone. Excellent. How do I start this problem? Set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We are asked to find this. What should we do? You guys can tell me the method or whatever. You guys are doing a lot of page flipping and staring.
Start by finding f -1.
Sure. Like, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, it doesn't even matter which method you use, you gotta find that first anyway. Okay, do you want a different table to tell me how to do that? Because honestly, that was the worst part of the problem usually, is figuring out how to start. You wanna keep going? I mean, we forgot that part, but still. Well, this was a long pause. You know, he's not the only one at that table that has a voice. Do you guys want me to pass it on to somebody else? I'm fine. I'm not trying to like guilt you into one decision or other. You guys just were very indecisive. Okay? Somebody needs to tell me how to find that answer. Sure.
2.
Table 3. They're not saying much. Oh, there's nobody there. Thought that was obvious. 0. You guys haven't got it. Table 6. You got calculators out, you're doing stuff. Oh, you're passing for the whole table?
Yeah.
But they didn't even like weigh in.
I don't have a calculator.
You don't have a
Can you pass it to that table?
Does it? We are not passing it to a smart table. Does anybody know how to get it? Oh dear. Well, I got all day. We gotta figure it out.
Do you set f of x equal to 3, like that whole equation?
Okay, that sounds good.
Because it's the inverse.
It is the inverse, so you need to figure out when f is equal to 3. And for this problem, that is specifically what the calculator is for. So oh, are you guys all giving me the look as if you have no idea how to do that?
Because we don't.
Do you guys ever practice, like, outside of class?
We were not.
What do you mean you were never taught it? I've already showed it a couple times this year. You guys need initiative on your own.
Using my calculator outside of class.
You guys are the math geeks. That is literally what you do. Says who? You're in the calc class.
I just flow by. I think it's calc. Maybe I should go with the calc then. I just took pre-calc.
There's nothing wrong with trying it just to see if you like it, but it is okay. I am going to help you out, but you guys have no initiative.
I will. I'll start practicing.
You want us to look it up on our
calculator
phone
every
right
day
now?
after I sell it.
That's what I had you do at the beginning of class. I said if you don't remember how to find the inverse, look it up.
Wait,
I literally told you that I was gonna ignore the fact that you had your phones to look it up. Okay, put in the equation into y equals. There are multiple ways to get this answer. The most common is to put it in y equals. But there's different ways to do it. Some of these science classes teach you to use the solver. I am not going to touch the solver. It is very weird and is glitchy. I don't like the solver. I also don't have a packet. What was the equation?
4x to the 7th power minus x squared plus x minus 5.
I know you read it nicely, and my brain shut off. Minus x squared?
Minus x squared plus x minus 5.
Thank you. Okay. The next thing you're going to want to do is put in y2 what you're trying to make it equal to. Which I believe was 2. 3. Thank you. Okay. If I'm trying to figure out when this equation is equal to 3, I'm going to graph them both individually and find where they cross. So it's no different than what you guys actually did in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calc when you solved simultaneous equations. So graph both, find where they cross. The graphing is easiest with the graphing calculator because it's accurate. Oh, okay, thank you. That would be the next part. Do not use trace. Trace feels like it should work, but it doesn't. It just gives you a close answer. It doesn't actually solve it. Is everybody at this step? I just don't want to fly ahead of anybody here. Is everybody at the step where you have both of these graphed, or does somebody need some help getting to this stage? I know you most likely have already asked the people at your table. Okay? Above the trace button, it says calc. You want to do second trace because that will give you the calculation menu. If you want your calculator to tell you exactly where they cross, that is number 5, intersection. Now, if you have a different TI calculator, does anybody here have the Inspire or something? Does anybody have a Casio? Okay, then never mind. That's a different, you find it differently on those. So that, okay, so we're going to do number 5, the intersection. Down on the bottom, it asks for your input. Because you can have like 10 lines graphed, it wants to know which 2 lines are crossing. So down on the bottom, it says first curve. It's blinking on the blue one. I'll hit enter. Then it'll switch to the other equation because I only have 2 of them in there. And then I'll hit enter again. And then it's going to ask me to guess. It wants you to move the cursor close to where they cross. Because equations can cross a bunch of times, it wants to know which one it's looking for. So basically your calculator does the trace feature super accurately and zoomed in to find this answer, and then hit enter. So the x value is 1.1063959. I will give you the recommendation not rounding it. So if you want your final answer to be accurate to 3 decimal places, don't round during a problem. I'm sure you guys have done sig figs. I'm assuming that's chemistry. Basically, you want to keep it like 6 decimal places accurate during a problem to make sure that the final answer is 3 decimals accurate. So I'll just keep this entire number. So 11063959, and I will go back to my notes. F inverse of 3 is 1106. 3959, I think it was. traditionally, I don't think I've ever seen one of these on the AP test on the calculator portion. So it's possible it can, so this isn't bad practice. But traditionally, these are on the section where the answer is just gonna be 1, 2, 3, or -1, -2, -3.
Just give it on our test.
No, we're just doing this one.
Well, I was trying not to answer like sarcastic.
She already asked the question.
No, she answered sarcastically for me. She said, we're just doing this for fun. If you look ahead, there's actually only 2 sections left of this chapter. There's this, and then there's derivative of trig inverse. Totally forgot it was R&R day. Cool. We'll continue this tomorrow. We're not trying to rush it.